Today's topic is going to be an interesting one. It's a topic that almost everyone has an opinion on, and it's something that I personally feel very passionate about, but also very empathetic about because I understand that there are so many different perspectives about this kind of stuff. So, hopefully, I can just provide you with a little bit of understanding from my perspective about it, and you can take from it whatever it is that you feel is important or pertinent here. So, the topic is about sharing and social media. And in today's lesson, we're going to be talking about why you would want to be sharing your work in the first place, the importance of having your own website, the importance of understanding your goals that you have when it comes to social media, and where to share your work in terms of platforms. Let's start with the why, the most important part, as always. And this is referring to sharing your work just in general, irrespective of the platform itself. The act of sharing your work is a beautiful one, but it's also one that not everyone has the same reasons for doing. So I'm going to rattle off a few of what I think are some important reasons, and then you can decide whether or not those things are important to you and do them yourself, or whether they're not important to you and then you can go and move on to the next thing. So the first one is that you might want to share your work because you just simply have something to say, because you want to be able to communicate to someone and do it visually, because you want to express your emotions through your work. I think there's tremendous value in unique expression. And in a world where everyone is kind of just copying each other with content rather than art, I think we have a problem with people just expressing things that other people are expressing and just downright stealing other people's messages. Now, there's a lot to unpack here, and we'll talk about it more in tomorrow in terms of career and creating a business and creator culture and influencer culture. But I think that unique expression, a unique viewpoint, something that distinctly comes from you, these things will always have intrinsic value to them because we are human and because we love stories and we love feeling a connection to others. Expression through art is very beautiful in that way, and sharing your work becomes a privilege. And in some cases, for some people, it becomes their responsibility, even. They owe that to whoever will pay attention to them. For some people, just sharing your work and expressing yourself through art is just really therapeutic and self soothing, almost like a therapy session. It feels really nice to be able to continually add to a body of work and grow and have that in the public, regardless of whether or not there is commercial gain to be had at the end of the day. Another reason why you might want to share your work publicly is to actually get feedback. And I mean real feedback, where someone is breaking down your image and critiquing your technique, giving you progressive statements about how you can improve your work and just generally trying to move your work forward. And then hopefully you might do the same for them. Now, you can't really find feedback in the form of an Instagram post, but you can ask for good feedback in smaller communities where people have the time to get back to you. Places like my Discord, for example, shameless plug, where I have a dedicated channel just for people to get specific feedback about their images. Many people around the world spare their time to give you constructive feedback on how you can improve there. This is sharing your work for feedback, and especially at the beginning of your journey, while you're still building up that idea of what good taste is and what good technique looks like. This can be insanely useful. Now, recognize that not all feedback is equal. This is really important to understand. And not all feedback is useful or should be followed through, even if it comes from a good place. When it comes to feedback, make sure to internally filter it and look for trends rather than one-offs. If many people are saying the same thing about one of your images, then there's a higher chance of that feedback being actually true and actually being useful to you. A data point of one, regardless of how experienced that other person is, doesn't necessarily make it true. So always view feedback with a grain of salt. Now, you might want to share your work to make money and build a business. Good on you. The entirety of tomorrow's lesson is just for you. And it centers around how you can either build a business on your own or develop a career doing the things that you love. So for the sake of tomorrow's lesson, I'll talk more about this section tomorrow. Kind of related to business is the idea of recognition. People are so obsessed with the idea of becoming an influencer nowadays, and that's all fine and good, but what about the good old motivation about being world renowned for what you do? That you're so focused on getting better at your craft that you eventually build a name for yourself in the space. Personally, I don't think I'd be anywhere as good at the craft as I am right now if I didn't focus on relentlessly building my skills in the space to then only be recognized by Sony and, a plethora of other big Fortune 500 brands and working closely with them. I think in order for any recognition or influence to occur, people need to know that you're really good at your craft, and that doesn't come overnight. As we've discussed previously, that comes over many, many years of building a body of work. But what is awesome about it is that you can build your skills and build your online presence at the same time. You never really need to wait for a perfect time to show up in the world. And actually sharing your honest process over time, especially your beginning work, is often a great way for people to relate to you. So in the age of social media, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and everything in between, while all of these platforms are great and they all have the potential to bring organic reach to you, the problem is that you don't control any of them. They could literally shadow ban your account tomorrow, and if your livelihood is on there, if your portfolio is on there, well, that's it. You'd be gone. You'd be finished. What you can control, however, is a website that you create for yourself. A website where you're in control, where you can decide exactly what images to show potential clients and in what way. A website where you can list out all of your achievements and information about yourself without the hidden aside of what you would usually have on a social media platform. And the best part about it is that it will only ever go down if you choose it to go down. Many photographers, myself included, use their websites to host their portfolios so that they can only show the best of the best there, rather than, on social media where you show a lot more casual photographs or it's something that's a little bit more tailored for a specific purpose. With your portfolio on your website, you can use that to show your clients to get work. You can prove that you know what you're doing, and you can show your previous work or a similar kind to the work that you're trying to get. And if you're really industrious, you can even have specific portfolios online for specific reasons and specific clients. You could break down into a category or a genre and have your clients go into those specific pages and view those specific photographs to help them in the hiring process. And for me, I have a portfolio set up to focus on all of the countries that I have portfolio worthy images in, because I'm specifically a travel photographer and that's how I like to focus my work. But if you're a wedding photographer, then showing your best wedding shot and the categories that you shoot in is critical. If you're a portrait photographer, showing different styles of your portraits is really important as well, and how good your technical expertise is across the broad range of your skill set. Now, remember that you want to focus on something specific rather than just putting everything on there. It's not a dumping ground. Only put up your best work, pieces that you are super proud of, and make the most out of the time that the person is spending on your website. Something that a lot of people forget to realize or don't really empathize with is that so many people use social media for so many different reasons. And the reasons why someone loves a particular platform or hates a particular platform might be for reasons that don't line up with why you use the platform in the first place. And I see this all the time on the internet. There's so much toxicity about X platform is better than X for X, Y, and Z reasons and so on. But the thing is, unless you really know why you're doing social media, like at the core, the real honest reason of why you're using it, then you don't know which advice to follow, let alone what to do next, let alone how to think about social media. And more likely than not, you'll just be following what everyone else is doing because everyone else's goal is as well. And that's not a good thing. So that's the first thing. What is your goal when you use social media? Your real, honest one. Whatever it is, be truthful to yourself. Do you want to use social media with the intention of getting famous? There's nothing to be ashamed of in that, right? Just own it and be proud of it. Because if it is, the actions that you're going to take on that journey in social media are going to look a heck of a lot more different to the person who has zero interest in fame or fortune and is just doing it because it's an emotional release for them, or they're just having fun with no strings attached. And again, neither of those things are things to be ashamed of, nor are they things to shy away from. But the clarity of your intent is very, very important. If your goals are more business or fame focused, then most certainly you'll want to use the platforms where the majority of people are, like Instagram. And you'll most certainly be wanting to post the types of images that people will want to see in your respective chosen genre. That's the game that you're playing in that instance. And in this game, the numbers matter. Followers and the likes and the comments matter. Engagement matters. And in that situation, you're going to have to deal with the mental health side of things, as well as showing up every day and being consistent and all that other kind of stuff. Now, this means that you'll be dealing with not only getting better at your art and your craft from a grassroots level, but also being able to go broad enough and self-correct enough such that you can get good at what you do while also being good at what feeds the social media beast. And this is a tough gig for anyone, speaking from experience. However, if your goals are just to have somewhere on the internet where you can cathartically share your work and occasionally show your friends, then pick whatever platform speaks to you the most and post in whatever way you like, and don't worry about a single thing. That's great. I'm very, very envious of that situation. But be aware, that is the game that you're playing. So if you're in this camp, you don't get to complain about the lack of engagement or not having any followers or no one commenting on your photos, because that's not the game that you're playing. You get to have the serenity and the peace of all of that pressure taken off of you. You can't have your cake and eat it too. That's just not how the world works. But you can see how, these two ideas are very contrasting scenarios, and the goals matter. Intentions matter. If you are in one camp but getting advice from someone who is in another, then you're not speaking the same language, and therefore that advice is void. There's tremendous clarity in understanding what your goals are and being authentic to them. Don't worry about what other people want, where other people say you should be, or what other people say you should do. Just worry about what you want and play the game that you've signed up for, and have the clarity to move forward with that. Okay, huge rant aside, let's talk about where to share this work and what platforms are good for what reasons, aside from sharing work on your website. And so the first one is obviously Instagram. While they go through ups and downs every other year in terms of photographers leaving and coming back to them and facing backlash and all that kind of stuff, I think at the core of it all, it was originally all about the images. And I think that a lot of the core audience will continue to still be there for a very long time. Now, even though the platform is moving towards short form video, as the rest of the world is right now, I think photographs still have a place on the platform, even if it's not the top dog. The thing is, above all else, if your focus is more business or fame focused, Instagram is just too big of a platform to not be on for photography, period. While there's debates all over the place about where the best place to be is, at the end of the day, in my opinion, Instagram is still one of the biggest social media platforms in general, and most certainly the platform that has the most amount of photographers on it. For folks who aren't business-minded and just want a place to share their work and express themselves, I would say that it's okay. It's not bad either. At least people are very used to Instagram as a destination. It's much easier to say, hey, check out my Instagram, and for someone to actually do it versus, saying, hey, check out my portfolio website, and them actually going to visit it. That being said, you are limited to tiny screens and ridiculous aspect ratios. So there's always that. I personally shoot almost everything in landscape orientation, and then I crop in for all of the different platforms, unless it's specifically for portraiture. But because of that, crop ratios are just, they're a nightmare in general. Twitter is a platform that has been popping up for photographers recently, but it always has had some level of photographers on it. Now, the great thing about Twitter is that the aspect ratios when you click into the image are whatever you would like them to be, which is amazing. Plus, the quality is generally a lot less compressed than other platforms as well, which generally makes the images and the way that they present images just have a really nice viewing experience. The only limitation is that the preview sizes on individual posts can get a little bit weird. Depending on how many images you're posting, the preview crop ratio is always different, so watch out for that as well. And you can only ever post 4 images at the most in a gallery kind of thing. Now, I'd say from a business perspective, it's honestly not a very good prospect because numbers and reach in general just are significantly smaller than on a platform like Instagram. That plus Twitter is more about the written word, and mixing your own thoughts and images can be a double-edged sword on the same profile. I'd see Twitter as a place where you can start to grow and connect with a group of other like-minded people, but then monetize them elsewhere. Now, from a general user perspective, though, I love using Twitter because I can do both written word and photos. And I feel like there's a lot less pressure to have a perfectly curated set of images like there is on other platforms. I use Twitter casually though, and not for any business purposes at all, just to engage with my community. And there is quite a large photographer community on there as well. And finding new photographers through the topics feature of Twitter is so much less abrasive than some of the other platforms when it comes to discovery. So I really recommend Twitter if you are just wanting to get involved with the photography community at large. Flickr was the very original big community for photographers and photographers only. It is still very much loved by a very specific group of very passionate and loyal photographers. And honestly, while I am not on the platform myself, I do have friends who are, and they do say that it is great. Now, I wouldn't try to make a business from it at all, but it is one of the very rare places on the internet where you can actually use the platform as a portfolio. It is extremely photographer friendly. Crop sizes and image sizes aren't an issue. There are metadata and settings options. There's a social component to it as well with decent discoverability. And it's just generally a nice place if you're looking for a photography only platform. It does, however, suffer from a bit of a lack of popularity, and I think that's due to the fact that it's more web-based than anything else, and that there isn't really an obvious way to monetize it, which is a little bit of a shame. And it doesn't really have a lot of the mainstream appeal of the other platforms. Now, I wish it kind of had a little bit more going for it so that I could have a few more reasons to use it myself, and so that other people would have a few more reasons to use it as well. But it is what it is. So if you're looking for a platform that is photography only and is one that you could potentially use as a portfolio to show other people your work, then this is still a great platform for consideration. 500px and IM are both platforms that are somewhat similar to each other in the sense that they're both photography focused, and they're both very much integrated in the stock image scene. On both services, you can actually upload your images and have them be images that these platforms sell on your behalf as stock images. Now, this can rub people the wrong way, but there are also some people who think this is a genius idea. Again, it's all a matter of perspective. Either way, if you're okay with this idea and you want to share images on a smaller platform, then both of these platforms have great features for photographers, including full metadata, high quality images, a social component, and of course, the stock component as well. Okay, there are a lot of other smaller apps you can also use as well, but honestly, again, it all comes down to what your goals are when it comes to posting your work online, and whatever they are will very much determine what platform you use and how you use it. So again, clarity is everything, and being true to yourself is key. Today's assignment is about goals. Surprise, surprise. We're going to be doing a little bit of introspection today to answer the question of what are your social media goals? Now, if you hate social media and you want nothing to do with it, then great, you have a day off. But if you are intending to use social media, then I want you to answer the question with honesty and clarity. It's okay if you want to build yourself up to become a world famous photographer. There's no shame in that. It's okay if you want to build a business from social media through doing what you love. I love it. That's great. That's what I do too. And it's okay if you want to just casually use it and see where it takes you as well. But if that last one is you, know that you're going to be in for a bumpy ride and you'll have to change along the way. And look, we're not idiots. A lot of us know that there's a game to be played when it comes to social media, and that does mean that it has an influence on the way that we learn things or we present ourselves. It influences the way we shoot and what we shoot and how we shoot it. And there's no denying that this is how it goes. You can see this in a plethora of Zoomer kids who are shooting just for content, just to get famous nowadays. Like, there's a formula for it, and they're out getting it, and you can't deny that it's there. Whether or not you go down that path, that's totally up to you. If you think it's cringe, then it's not for you. Go on a different path and forge your own way. If you think it's amazing and awesome, then that's great. Double down on it. But remember, having the goal of what social media means to you specifically means that you have clarity and intent, and you can tailor your approach to meet your goals, because that's what it's all about, moving forward towards your goals. So, what are your social media goals? All right, see you tomorrow.